TVB, Digital Fast.
You have suggested funneling aid through local responders, the National Unity Government, and ethnic armed organizations. Would ASEAN ever consider this?
They have not yet. And will they consider? I'm not so sure. But I think as the advocate like us, we need to keep advocating to them. We need to keep telling them because they don't live in the shoes of our people, which of course, like we know that, we see that, but it is our responsibility to keep bringing the ground realities to their face, to their ears, so that they can hear and they can also see the ground reality and see that if they don't consider this approach, like if they don't consider supporting directly to the frontline humanitarian responders through the border channels, there is no other way. There is absolutely no other way because the junta will never allow them to do that, right? So I think I really hope that they will take the political courage, and I also hope that they will use all other instruments that they have themselves already adopted and pledged within the ASEAN. You see, like ASEAN is not absolutely lack of rule base. ASEAN has the charter. ASEAN has many declarations that ASEAN needs to take the actions. They are politically and morally obliged because they adopted those declarations, no one else. Such as, for example, they also has the regional action plan for the protection of children. They have the regional action plan for the women, peace and security. But these regional action plan, how can they ever claim that they are making progress at all unless they actually can save the children's lives who are now being bombed and killed by the junta? If they cannot save the women from Myanmar who are being raped and gang raped by the military, Myanmar military, who has been blacklisted by the United Nations for using the rape as a weapon of war since 2019 officially. If the ASEAN don't try to include the protection component of the Burma-Myanmar's women in the conflict areas who are facing violence from the Myanmar military or any others, how can ASEAN claim that they have been successful or they are making progress with their regional action plan? You see? So it's not like ASEAN is lack of completely nothing at all to address Myanmar crisis. They have many other also declarations and agreements they can look into, and they have to put everything together. They have to put all of their declaration together on the table and see like how these declarations and the regional action plans and their own political pledge can really complement and merge between each other to really address this poly crisis in Myanmar, because that's the only way for them if they want to really address this. Otherwise, what they can claim or what they can do is they just have to be very honest, tell the whole world, tell the UN Security Council, sorry, we cannot address the Myanmar crisis alone ourselves, which in fact is what I would say they will never be able to address alone by themselves. So ASEAN also needs this courageous political leadership to admit its own lacks, such as like they don't have the capacities, for example. And they need to admit that to the United Nations, the world body, saying that we need your help in this and that to work together with the Myanmar people for this people-centered solution. I think that's the very step that they don't seem to have a political courage or political will to take that step. As long as they do that, they won't be able to address the Myanmar crisis.
So who should lead or coordinate this humanitarian response? Because the UN seems to deal exclusively with the regime.
We are not only the UN. I mean, the ASEAN AHA Center, or the Humanitarian Coordination Center of the ASEAN itself, they only go through the military junta. Their humanitarian delivery mission and claim to be successful once they hand over their aid to the military's hand, where those aid will end up in the military's warehouses. There are no monitoring mechanisms. There are no transparency and accountability. There are absolutely no monitoring of how much of those aid being reached to the most needy people to where, to which area, how much has already been stockpiled in the warehouses of the military under the military control or the military junta, how much has ended up on the black market, and how much has been corrupted by the military and their cronies. I mean, like, these are the things, if they even want to talk about the recovery phase, for example. Recovery phase is even much more easier for the military to exercise their endemic corruption, because recovery includes the reconstruction of the real buildings, right? The reconstruction of the pagodas, reconstruction of the temples, reconstruction of this building, that building, and in which, just like what happened after the cyclone Nagis, the military and their families and their cronies are the they are the ones who won the projects, of the recovery from the international, where they actually profited for their personal family wealth, right? So without the monitoring, how can any international or the ASEAN aid can guarantee that it's reaching to the people? Because people are saying they are not getting the aid. To directly respond to your question is, who should be actually leading the humanitarian response? It should be the people of Myanmar and their legitimate representatives like the NUG and the EROs. We've been doing ourselves already without their help. They only need just one step. Just take one more step. It's just join us, because we are leading ourselves already anyway, regardless of their help or not. I think like if they join us, then we can be all successfully accomplishing our missions, which is to address the very needs of the vulnerable population in Myanmar.
Mm-hmm. What's your response to the regime plan elections announced to begin in December? How would this affect the aid response?
First of all, I think the world need to understand this, which of course we have been also now. This is message we have been given to the ASEAN, including to the ASEAN Special Envoy as well, is we need to understand, first of all, even under their own military constitution of 2008, this military junta led by Main Ally is illegal. How they declared the state of emergency on February 1st of 2021 is not in line with even their own constitution. That's the very reason we always tell the whole world this is illegal military junta, illegitimate. And therefore, they have no legality or legitimacy to hold anything called election. So that's the first thing. So that's the legality side of my response to what the military said. They claim that they are going to hold this election, right? But then you will see there are those within the country who will jump on the wagon of the military's planned sham election, and they will carry on with that wagon to continue their politics. Yeah. Unfortunately, it is also very worrying, and also it's really sad to see that kind of developments is coming to be a trend again. Like we are seeing now, the individuals and the organizations or entities or political parties who continue to be alarmed to exist by the Myanmar military, right? At the mercy of the Myanmar military, they continue to be able to do what they are doing in the name of the politics or the peace for the country. Well, the thing is, the history is not that far yet. I mean, let's learn only even from the past 10 years, from 2011 to 2020. We should be very clear that 2008 Constitution will only provide supreme power to the military to stay in politics forever. So right now, what I'm hearing is some of the non-military or the military juntas proxies or military juntas affiliates, or sort of like who will join the military's sham election wagon, are saying that, we're going to participate in the election. We will also amend the constitution. Why give the false hope to the people again? Come on, right? I mean, even the children today understand and know this 2008 military constitution is a catch-22. So basically, nobody should be given, a prior false hope to the people, because people at the hands of the military, under the military junta's control areas, they have to be very worried for their security. If they stay at home, not give the vote, what will military will do to them, right? So they have to show up, they have to give the vote. Otherwise, there will be the Busoti or the others will come with the guns. So what are they going to do? So now the other political, like pro-military junta political people need to be very careful that they don't give the false hope or they don't actually try to coerce the people with both the incentives and the pressure to join or to give the hopes. It's very dangerous because the military junta also allow the political parties to hold the arms, right? So what does it mean? The political parties are going to actually use the guns to do what? So people are now not only to be afraid of the military junta and the Busoti, but also the political parties who are now allowed by the junta to hold the guns and arms. It's very unrealistic, but also it's politically, I would say, where are the lessons learned? My suggestion also will be to those particularly who are kind of like trying to jump on the wagon rather than who have been with the military forever in the past. I mean, those who have been with the military forever in the past will continue to be forever with the military in the past, right? Because that's where they get all the benefits. But some of them are still they are sitting on the fence and try to see whether they should jump on the revolution side or they will jump onto the military junta's ground. And I think they need to be the one to make a very politically and morally conscious judgment and decision, because our young generations, thousands and thousands of lives have been sacrificed immensely for the real change so that the future generations will not have to be under the military operation anymore. So why the older generation who were not successful yet in the past still want to go back to the same old book and continue to be the old wine, but probably in the new name and the new bottle of the military junta created, like that will be created from this sham election, and go back to the same old thing under the military and supporting the military to continue to stay in power. Why would they do that? They don't have to. My worry is more with those who are sitting on the fence at the moment, not able to judge. I will not tell them jump onto the revolution side because they need to make their own political conscious decision. But I will encourage them not to jump on to the wagon of the military sham election, because that history that they will make for themselves and for their future generations is going to be quite a stain by the young generation's blood. So they should not do that.
Do you think ASEAN, either Malaysia or Philippines, would legitimize these elections?
As far as I observe, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, they don't actually see the military's sham election, military's led election as a solution. I don't hear them saying that these elections are going to bring sustainable solution to Myanmar. But we're talking about individual members of the ASEAN, you see. The Philippines, next chair, Malaysia, current chair. But these two individual countries, like Indonesia, even though they don't see the military-led, military orchestrated this upcoming election, they don't see it will bring the solution. However, when it comes to the ASEAN, they all stand on the principle of the ASEAN centrality, meaning that they will try to be in the unity for their political decisions as a ASEAN decision together, right? So I think the challenge for these individual countries like Malaysia and the Philippines, who sees that military-led election is not the answer, but the challenge for them now, which they need to come up with the solution soon, is how are they going to convince the other ASEAN member states or the other ASEAN leaders from the Vietnam and Laos and Cambodia and Brunei to actually join them in the upcoming summit in October, that they need to speak up very clearly, just make a statement that the military junta cannot hold such an election because it lacks the legality, it lacks the legitimacy, and under the ASEAN Charter, this junta is not to hold any election at all. They cannot convene. the ASEAN should hold on to their own principles and ASEAN Charter and just make us a very clear announcement that we will not recognize this election. Will they do that? We'll have to wait and see. And knowing of the ASEAN always not having that level of political courage or following their own pledges as they pledge in the charter and the declarations, it's also challenging for us as well, because you will see like how the quick fix solution, how the ASEAN and even the UN member states, many of them will see that, like a election as if it is the central part of the democracy, which is actually not, especially in this current world. Election can be all facet in so many other authoritarian countries. So it's not different for Myanmar, and even worse for Myanmar because of what this Myanmar military is. So I hope that ASEAN leaders will at least once in their lifetime take the political courage and take their own political obligation to the Myanmar people, because state sovereignty is equal to the people, not who sits in Naypyidaw. So now the ASEAN leaders come together in this upcoming summit, and even before that, there will be ministerial meeting, foreign ministers meeting. They need to come up with a very clear position that ASEAN will not accept the hunters-led election.
Your most recent op-ed for DVB English News was on the women, peace and security agenda at ASEAN. How is this progressing?
I think my messages are only reaching to different ears at the moment. I'm basically reaching out to different entities in the ASEAN region, including the human rights commissions of the different member states, like other entities, including the think tanks who might make the proposal to the ASEAN. In fact, the regional action plan is actually developed with the technical and financial assistance from the international community there, such as the UN Women, or the donors like, from Canada, for example, Australia. There are other donors are involved. So I'm trying to reach with my proposal to those other entities as well as to the ASEAN leaders through the different channels. I haven't got any response so far yet, but I have received one response, which is still early for me to say at this point. But one of the member states, relevant bodies of the one of the member states, is looking into how to address the conflict related sexual violence that Myanmar women are facing. They are looking into my proposal for the ASEAN to form an independent body or committee, independent committee or delegation to reach out to the women of Myanmar and really discuss and hear from the women of Myanmar, their experiences, their documentation on the conflict-related sexual violence, which directly relates to the regional action plan for the women, peace and security. As I said in my op-ed, ASEAN regional plan of action on women, peace and security completely neglected or left out the women of Myanmar. But there is still a time, right? Because they just adopted in 2022. So now is the time that they can actually reach out to the Myanmar women and integrate their concerns, their voices, their recommendations, and develop the action plan together, because that's the only way for them to also claim any success. And UN Women play a major role. So I hope that UN Women also has received my messages, that they will actually consider into the more pragmatic approach rather than just read it and leave it there, because at the end it is about their own work and their own credibility and dignity. Because the reality is, for us as women of Burma, Myanmar, we have been addressing the crisis, including the conflict-related sexual violence, gender-based violence, sexual violence. We have been addressing ourselves for many years already. But if they leave us out, then they are the one who will actually lose their own credibility and their own progress that they want to claim. Because the reality is, without the Myanmar women participation and without the Myanmar women, the solution for the Myanmar women addressing the Myanmar women's crisis, then there is no real regional action plan that they can claim to be a successful one.
What concrete steps do you think ASEAN should take to restore credibility and support the people of Myanmar?
I think the first thing is Malaysia chair the Prime Minister took the very first step already, which is meeting with the NUG Prime Minister. But it's already almost 3 months now. And in October, there will be a summit where the ASEAN will need to make another year decision for Myanmar crisis, right? So the most concrete and pragmatic steps that Malaysia as the chair, the Prime Minister and Special Envoy himself and his office can do is in the coming 2-3 months time, really dedicated for a series of formal engagement and consultation with the NUG and EROs together is not about, let's stop hearing from us. We have told them both privately and publicly way too much already of what we've been doing already. They don't need to hear more from us of what we need or what we want them to do. Now the next step is what they can do that we want to hear, right? So I think this dialogue between the ASEAN and the legitimate stakeholders of Burma, Myanmar needs to be in the pragmatic consultation to see either within 5-point consensus or beyond 5-point consensus, because some of the issues are beyond 5-point consensus. Yeah. So they need to really sit together and put on the table and map out where the current situation, the crisis, the people's efforts of the federal democracy building blocks, and then what is the real needs to take the next step so that people can really achieve their goal of dismantling this Myanmar military and build the federal democracy, and where the ASEAN can really give the political, technical, and other, like including the financial humanitarian support. And one thing that they can concretely do also is they need to stop the military bombing. Minimum benchmark. If Malaysia cannot achieve the military bombing to the people, I would say Malaysia, again, like the others, completely failed, because that is the most important to save the people's lives on the ground. And also that is their own pledge of the 5-point consensus. So stop the aviation fuel going to the military junta, stop the finance, stop the military weapons going to the junta. Don't allow any air or the, like a water, like a space being used by the military junta to empower themselves with more weapons and more aviation fuel to bomb the people. So if the ASEAN can really do that, I think that is where they can actually say that they have made the real concrete progress.
As we wrap up, is there any message you would like to give to the people of Myanmar?
To the people of Myanmar, I would say that this time has, especially 2025, has become far worse for the people who have to face the military oppression, violence, as well as the natural disaster in the revolutionary liberated areas. Also, there are this humanitarian crisis, lack of economic opportunities or the job opportunities, like forced conscription. Running away from that is another huge burden for the people. And then there is also education, right? Because so many of the people's basic needs for daily life has been deprived because of this military's violence. So 2025 become even worse because of the earthquake and the post-earthquake problems. Would like to say that for those of us who are not in the country with them on the ground, we are not physically with them, but we are with them. We have tried the best we could to bring the aid to them even before the junta is bringing to them. We have been doing that. So stay strong, hold on to each other. Let's not give up. Let's not give in to this junta, because the sacrifice of the young generations, their children, their grandchildren, in the last 4 years, they have made immense sacrifice for the real change that we, our generation and our generation before our generations, have already suffered way too much already, that we were not able to topple this military. But now, young generation has been almost at the tipping point of trying to, with their efforts, at the tipping point of bringing down this military. They are almost winning. They still have to go farther, but they are winning. I think that needs to be recognized by their parents, their children, and the people of Myanmar who are, yes, suffering in the country, but at the same time, this revolution gaining the ground to remove this military is actually advancing. So please hang in there and let's hold on to each other and let's not give in to this junta election and let's not fall on the same trap by those quote unquote politicians who are giving the false promises, who are the military's allies, who just are telling that we are going to amend the 2008 constitution, which in fact is not going to happen, but instead they will support the military to continue to stay in power and control the economy and political and social lives of our people. So I think that is going to be my message to the people.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.